Alright guys, so for today's educational video for Unprofitable, I'm going to be going over Goldbachs Conjecture and how to use them on like a higher time frame or a lower time frame, or just basically use them as a confluence, right? So in today's video, there's like multiple concepts into Goldbachs Conjecture, but like time and like fucking dealing ranges and all of that fucking bullshit like power of three. But I'm going to be going over the first step of it, which is Hippo blocks. And that's really how you find like, point of interest and like entries using this shit. So you can see here on a higher time frame how price is like perfectly reacting to gold back and shit, yada yada yada, like the dealing ranges, like the gold back levels. I'm not going to be going too in depth about it because I'm going to be going over Hippo blocks. So basically, how can you find a Hippo block? Well, let's go over what a Hippo block is. Well, first of all, a Hippo block is a hidden interbank price point objective, or to dumb it down, a hidden order block, right? So a Hippo block, to find a hidden order block, you have to take two wicks of two consecutive candles. Like this is not consecutive, right? So two wicks of two consecutive candles. So if you want a bearish, or if you want to mark out a bearish Hippo block, you have to have two bearish candles, and those candles have to form a fair value gap. That's the most important step. It has to form a fair value gap for it to properly be a Hippo block. So as you can see right here, we create a bearish order block, or bearish fucking Hippo block. Now, what happens to this bearish Hippo block? It gets ran through. However, you know how like a fair value gap gets inverse, or if you trade order blocks, a order block gets inversed and it turns into a mitigation block or a breaker block, right? And end up providing resistance. It ends up now providing support. So that's basically what's happening here, as you can see, right? So in hindsight, it also wicked perfectly to the CE of this bullish Hippo block. Now, what's the difference between marking out a bearish Hippo block and a bullish Hippo block? Well, to mark out a bearish Hippo block, you have to take the bottom wick of the first candle to the top wick of the second candle. So let's do this. So bottom wick to the top wick, bottom wick of the first candle to the top wick of the first candle. And it also has to create a fair value gap. Same goes here. Well, actually, you reverse what goes here, right? Or like inverse it basically. So you take the top wick to the bottom wick. So you take the top wick of the first candle to the bottom wick of the second candle. Instead of taking the second or the bottom wick of the first candle to the top wick of the second candle, you take the top wick of the first candle to the bottom wick of the second candle. And this is basically, you basically just take a read at that, right? So yeah, so let's fast forward a little bit. You see how price was reacting pretty nice at first, and then we dump, right? So then what happens? Well, we create not one, but two Hippo blocks. So we take the bottom of the first candle wick to the top of the first candle wick, and we mark that out. And then we do the same for this one. Now remember how I was saying how, the concept of IFVG, like an inverse fair value gap, can work here. Well, now this bullish Hippo block turns into a fucking negative, like a inverse Hippo block, just like how a bullish fair value gap turns into a inverse fair value gap, and that shit, acts as resistance, right? So now if we fast forward a little bit, you can see how price is reacting pretty much perfectly to this 4 hour, right? We tap into it and then we dump, tap and dump, right? And can also probably use these levels. You can see here how we just wick this external, right? We can just probably use that as well. And then we just dump more. And then whoop-de-doo. Right. So now what happens later? We tap into it and then we dump. We fucking dump, baby. We fucking dump, baby. So I like to take the furthest Hippo block. Like you can see here how we inverse this shit. We use this as support, right? Yada yada yada. That doesn't really matter to me because of this lying. Like I wouldn't take this Hippo block if we did end up retracing because of this Hippo block right here, right? And you can see exactly what happened. We pushed through this. However, we had this untouched one lying up here, and then we just fucking dump, right? And then we wick this external again. I'm not going to get too much in depth about that, but we're going to wick that external again, and then we're going to create a bearish order block. We were respecting it at, or bearish Hippo block, and we were respecting that at first, but then we just pushed through it, and then we also wicked the external level of the Goldback level, right? And then you can see how price retraces and then just pumps off it. So the idea of a inverse Hippo block actually fucking works. And then we tap into it again, and then nothing really happens. And now we are in present time. Now I'm gonna be going over my weekly bias going into this week because today is Sunday and we are currently in Asia session and we dumped like fucking 300 points in Asia session. So you can see here how with if we just ignore this for a little bit, like ignore this inverse Hippo for a little bit, we didn't have a full like candle closure above this Hippo block. So now niggas would be probably like fucking buying long right now and then like long in the top, except there's fucking two things, like three fucking things lying around here, hidden around here, which is the inverse Hippo and then no full candle closure above this Hippo. So we basically fully filled this. However, there was no full candle closure. And look what happens here. We wick this untouched 4-hour Hippo block, this furthest 4-hour Hippo block. And if we use Goldback, you can also see how, price was reacting to this level at first. And now look at what happens, right? And then if we fast go back in time, you can see how this EQ was used as resistance, this was used as resistance, and this was used as resistance, right? So yeah, so that's how I basically use Hippo blocks as a confluence. I like using it on a higher time frame most of the time, but that's just like any other PD array. Like in hindsight, it's just like any other PD array, like hindsight trading. Now I'm not saying this is like the holy grail of like PD arrays. Like this is what I trade. This is my trading model, right? Shiv trades rejection blocks and shit. Like other niggas, like most ICT traders trade fair value gaps and order blocks. But I trade Hippo blocks, and I really like it. Now I'm also not saying to fucking ditch your trading model and then convert into a Goldback fucking Goldback like cultists. Like, oh my gosh, you have to like fucking worship this Goldback guy, this Goldback mathematician. Like, I'm not fucking saying that. I'm saying like you can, if you're unprofitable, like take a look into this shit. And if you're unprofitable and like strategy hopping, like going from fucking supply and demand into ICT into fucking wedges and trend lines, like bro, just stick to one fucking model and then keep on adding confluences, right? Like to the point where you can like create your own model, right? So this is why I like trading Goldback for the most part, because I mean it's easy as fuck to read, and I can see like where price just like I can see like why price rejected and why price pumped, right? So you can see why. Um, now, um, that's really all it is to it. Besides the dealing ranges, all I really explained about is hippos, and I'm not gonna explain like there's more to it, like power of three. For Goldback, there's like power of three time, and then the dealing ranges like premium discount. Like, what is a dealing range? Well, a dealing range is a price range which we like trade within, and the price range will be 100%. And this is where we create Goldback levels inside. But I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, because I'm not gonna teach that yet. Because I'm gonna gatekeep this shit. No, I'm just kidding. But this is basically how I trade Hippo blocks, and I hope you guys would take a look into this shit, because it's actually pretty useful. It's actually a pretty good confluence to add on, and yeah, that's really it.